Yes, people, what's happening? And welcome to another episode of Let the Punk Talk. As you can see, the Punk Kid hasn't started this episode, and that would be because it'd be quite weird because it is officially Hughes versus Roberts 3. And thank Christ, we're not in York Hall again. We're not fighting again. We're here to break everything down. So first of all, Jack, how are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you?
All right, I'm tired. And Mr. Roberts, thank you for coming on. How are you?
Yeah, no, very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me, both of you, and good to see you again, Jack. Good to see you both, and yeah, all good. Thanks, mate.
Thank God. So look, obviously, we were going to do this before the second fight, but obviously, I think that fight was massive for both of you. I think more so Jack with the ages and whatnot, and I just think now you've done 20 rounds together. The respect must be absolutely huge. So. Let's just go right back to the start. So we're going back to probably December 21. Jack, Steve Goodwin rings you up and he says, I've got you your Southern Area title shot. You're fighting Paul Roberts. What's your first thoughts?
Yeah, like I kind of knew that the fight was on the horizon anyway, because it was the first time Ricky Little pulled out, and I was at one of Steve Goodwin's shows. And he was just talking about it, and he said, oh, well, Mo Pryor's got another lad that he really wants to put forward, but we're going to have a meeting with the board, and I think Ricky Little's going to get stripped. So that's the fight we're looking to get made. But at that time, they didn't strip him, and Ricky Little, Jack Hughes 2 was meant to take place. And obviously, lo and behold, he pulled out again for a second time, which is when I ended up fighting Raymond Comey instead. And then after that fight, Steve called me not long after and said, look, he's been stripped now, and we're looking to get you versus Paul Roberts made. So I kind of knew it was on the horizon anyway, but, it was kind of good to eventually know that I was going to be fighting for the Southern Area title after waiting for 3 years and having 5 or 6 pullouts on me. It was kind of a bit of a relief to finally know that I was going to fight for it.
It's bad enough with COVID, let alone having pullouts as well, wasn't it?
Yes,
Ricky Little had every excuse in the book, but I think I've drilled that prick enough on this. We'll leave it there. But Jack, when Steve come to you and said, look, Paul Roberts, did you know Paul? Have you heard of Paul?
Yeah, because I do really study the flyweight and super flyweight, people that are around it. So I knew who Paul was. I've watched his fights before previously on YouTube. So yeah, I did know who he was and what he was about.
Okay, fair enough. And then for you, Paul, obviously, was it a case of Mo come to you and said, look, win this fight and you've got the Southern Area shot, or?
I think like Jack, so Mo come to me and just sort of said, oh, there's possibly an opportunity for sort of Southern Area for a Southern Area title. But actually, initially, for some reason, is it Sam Cantwell?
Oh yeah,
He gave me like a Sam Cantwell's name first, and not Jack. So that's who initially, for some reason, I was told. But then, that sort of got away, and then I ended up having a poxy fight against Reese Taylor, and which was meant to be an 8-rounder, and then ended up being a 4, and the whole COVID situation was a nightmare, and ended up losing it. And then, I was just fortunate enough that obviously Jack then fought Raymond Comey, and then, that I was still accepted by the board to be fighting Jack and for the Southern Area. So yeah, it was just sort of. I was sort of happy that obviously after a loss against Reese Taylor that I was still able to go in for it,
Did you think when you lost that fight that was it? Your Southern Area shot was gone?
I was sort of thinking that, yeah, because obviously, I'd just come off a loss, and I'm not sure if there was other people around as well that, might have put their names in for it as well. But, the fact that I got it, I was sort of thinking, oh, now I've buggered that up. But I was just, luckily enough, it did come off. So, yeah.
So then we go on to the first fight, and I'm a straight person. I'll be completely honest. Obviously, I'd known Jack about 6 months before the first fight, and obviously, I now know that records are for DJs. And when that first fight was announced, I just thought that if Jack boxes, he wins. So let's go on to this first fight, Jack. How did you feel the fight went?
Yeah, no, it was a real close fight, and I do think it, like, you know, whatever way it went, you couldn't have argued. If Paul would have got it, I don't think you could have argued. If I got it, I don't think you could have argued. And if it was a draw, which it was, again, I don't think you could have argued with the result either way. Obviously, any close fight, I think both fighters are going to think that they won it. Obviously, that was my fault. I thought I did enough to win it, and I'm sure Paul thought he did enough to win it. And as I said, if you asked, you know, everyone in the crowd, I'm sure they could have both made a claim for both of us winning it. So yeah, it was a good, close, hard, tough fight, and I'm sure everyone that was there really enjoyed watching it.
10 rounds of brawling.
Exactly.
It was like, we'll come on to this when we finish the second fight. But Jack, what surprised you about Paul in that first fight?
I think like how slick he was, because again, if you look at his record, he's lost to a lot of people, and after sharing, not a lot of people, but he's lost to people that after sharing a ring with him, like I can't see how he has lost to them. And like he was slick, he's very hard to hit, like he's got good ring craft, like. And then, you know, if you look at like you was just speaking about Reece Taylor, I just can't see, like, if no one ever showed me Paul's records and I just shared a ring with him and they said he's lost to Reece Taylor and the other people, I'd be like, nah, you're fucking taking the piss. Like, there's no way that this guy lost to them. So he's got a very deceiving record. And I think that in the future, when people look at his record and they don't know who he is, they're going to be like, this is going to be an easy night for me. But as soon as they step in the ring, I think they're going to be in for a big surprise, like I was the first time.
Well, I think we all were surprised. But then, Paul, same for you, mate. So how do you think the first fight went?
Exactly like Jack said, it was close, and like it's all to do with like rounds that we're both throwing punches, we're both catching, and it's just at the end of the day, what does the ref prefer? There's one judge, which is the ref, which he's only ever got one angle. You don't know what he does see and what he doesn't see, like, you know, so it's just completely down to him on the night. And you know, you've got people that are, you know, your call is so good where you can see from all angles. So from people at all other angles, we see a completely different fight than what the ref would, like, you know. Yeah. So it is what it is. Like Jack, I thought I, you know, just done enough to win it, and you know, we got the draw, and that was that. And then we got the opportunity to have another 10-round brawl. So it's just, you know, it's all fun and games, isn't it?
I don't think, like, me and Jack done one the other night, and we said about it still in the show. Like, both fights, I think you'd struggle to find a better fight at York Hall on a small hall show. That second fight was just crazy. But again, we will come on to that. But we talk about that first fight. I don't want to talk too much about the first. But Jack, do you feel like you could have done more in that first fight? Did you wake up Sunday morning and think, if I'd have done this or if I'd have done that?
To be honest, I think no matter what result you get, I just think any fighter is going to be critical and think they could have done more. Even when you win, like you'll wake up and think like, oh, you know, I could have done this, but it doesn't matter. I got the results. So like, yeah, man, I think I could have done more. And again, I'm sure if you ask Paul the same, he's going to be like, yeah, I could have done more. Like, and even if you win, you're still going to be like, yeah, I could have done this, I could have done that. But you know, it is what it is. Like, so I just think like, yeah, I think I could have done more. But as I said, it is what it is, man.
And the same for you, Paul. You know, where you said it was so close, was there any point when you woke up and thought, in that round I could have done this, or was it?
Yeah, exactly that. It's just, you know what it is. It's when, you know, all fighters, we all train so hard, and like we can do the 10-round sparring, the 10 rounds, the 12 rounds on the pads, where we can literally throw non-stop like shots of 3s and 4s and then move off and move it, and you know, and then you get in that ring and you think to yourself, I've only thrown jabs and 1-2s, maybe 3s here and there. Where's the rest of the shots? Where's the slips to the body? Where's that? And you got videos of yourself doing it in training, and you're just like, but it's, you know, it's all in the mind at the end of the day. When as soon as you step in that ring, like 99% of it is all up there. And if, you know, if something's not quite right in the mind on the night, it's all just how you are on the night. It's all down to those 10 rounds that are right in front of you. It doesn't, the training that's all done, like, you know. So it is what it is. You can always say that you could have done more, but it was the what you done on the night, and that was that, like, you know. So,
Yeah, as long as you know you give your all, then there's nothing
yeah,
more you can wake up and say, "Oh,
exactly that.
I was in the change room, I couldn't be bothered," and then I come out. But I want to talk about mindset, mate, because we move on to this second fight now, and obviously, in your mind, Paul, you were written off by everyone this side of the water for that first fight. So then, Jack, for you as well, how was your mindset? You know, coming off of a win against Commie, which again, no one really expected you to win. You then, you had that stage where you went through the camp. What was your mindset going into this second fight? Of you knew what Paul was about. Was you more focused now because you'd realised how good he was?
Are we talking about the second one now or the first?
Yeah, we're now talking about the build-up. The fight's been announced.
Oh yeah, so yeah, it was really weird, you know, the second one for me, because I spoke about it on another podcast. It was like the best worst camp I ever had, if that made sense. Like, it was the best camp because everything went right. I was, 100% fit, no injuries, no nothing, but like my mind was just all over the place. Like, I put myself in like a really dark place, and I was getting angry like all the time at like the smallest things. And yeah, it was just weird. And then I remember waking up on the day that I spoke about, and I was like, I'm not going to win tonight. And like, I kept running that through my head, like, I'm not going to win. I'm not going to win. And then like, it was only until I got to York Hall around my team when like I started to relax and like feel a bit more at ease and comfortable. But like literally for 8 weeks, it was just like, it's weird. I just put myself in a really weird mindset. But it's also funny because every time I've seemed to have had like gone into a fight with a terrible mindset, I've always seemed to produce the best performance of my career, which is just really odd. And every time I seem to have a great mindset, I don't really seem to do that well. So it's just one of them really funny things that I don't know, I don't really get it.
You just have to be more negative in the future, mate.
Yeah.
I'm getting fucked up tonight. I'm getting fucking smashed, and then you knock the geezer out in the first round. That's perfect. But then, Paul, with you, when I see you at that weigh-in, you looked in fantastic shape. You looked positive. It was kind of like a little arrogance you had about yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like the face-off, you were smiling at Jack, and I was thinking, this cocky prick, like, fuck this guy. I got in the car with Jack. I was like, what is it? The arrogance about him. But
I'm just a nice guy, mate. I'm just a nice guy.
No, that's it. But
I'm smiling because I'm happy.
But you must have been. You must have had that confidence about you, because everyone wrote you off for this first fight, and now you're thinking, I've had the best camp. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I did. I had a really good camp. There was only sort of one slight thing, but I wasn't letting it bother me in my mind, because I'm sort of, I suppose, just because I am quite a chilled out sort of a lad, I don't really let stuff bother me, if you know what I mean. But I didn't really have a lot of sparring. I might have only done about sort of 20 rounds, I suppose, with sort of 65, 68 kilo amateurs. I couldn't really find any sparring of my weight. So, and obviously went to Marbella and stuff, which you've seen, and unfortunately the chaps I was meant to be sparring with were injured over there, and so like that was the only sort of slight negative I had to sort of my camp. But everything else, I find the weight really easy to do, and I love training. I was in the gym already again tonight just because I enjoy going to the gym. It's just, so yeah, mindset wise, I was just my usual like happy self. I knew that the last one was a close draw, and I thought, well, this time I've got to do a bit more, make it more convincing, and just, it's boxing. I love boxing, and you go in there and that's what you got to do.
I mean, you say you're not, mate. I tried so hard to hate you for the past 7 months, but you asked Jack, I was like, he's got a fucking Range Rover. This guy drinks Starbucks. And I was thinking, even on the night of the fight, I walked up to you, the second fight, and I just put my arm around you and said, mate, I wish you all the best tonight. And I walk away and I'm thinking, like, Jack's my best mate. Why am I doing this? This guy's fighting Jack. I should not be doing this. But, mate, when this fight was announced, Paul, was there any part of you that wanted it where you are, Somerset?
Of course, just mainly because I know I could get obviously a lot more people coming. I'm sort of quite as you can see, I'm a happy-go-Larry sort of guy, and a lot of people like me from around here. So I just know that I can get a lot of people going. And it's a nice feeling, isn't it, when you got a lot of people there watching you? Like, you know, no matter sort of results or how you do or whatever, the fact that you've got a load of friends, family, mates, fans there watching you, it's just a good feeling. Whereas, you know, the York Hall, it's such a, you know, London's expensive, getting people up there traveling wise, whether they want to stay there and stuff. You know, I'm still quite fortunate that I managed to get for both fights sort of mid-50s people sort of to get up there, which, you know, I was happy with. But, you know, it would just be nice if it was local, just to get a few more people there. That's all.
I will say the support in your second fight was loud. Do you know what I mean? It was very loud, and
yeah, a few loud mouths there.
Yeah, it was, and you know, like when we're all screaming "Let's go, Jack!" I kind of felt because Jack had about 70 odd people there, so it's quite an even number, and we were just so loud. You might not know, but before the fight, the announcer come out to the ring. And before everyone was just shouting about "Let's go," and the announcer had to tell us to shut up. He was like, "Can you stay quiet?" And then you come out. So, Jack, what about you? Was that ever an interest of you to go and fight away?
Yeah, like, I don't mind. I travel anywhere and fight everywhere. And Steve did say that they did want it in Somerset, and I just said, you know, Steve, I said I'm happy to take it. I said I would prefer it in York Hall for literally the same reasons that Paul just said. You know, all closer to home, more people. I said I'd prefer it in York Hall, but if we have to go Somerset, we have to go Somerset. And then he just basically said he'd call me back in 10 minutes, and then 10 minutes later he called me back, and he was just like, "Yeah, it's at York Hall." So that was really the end of that.
Yeah, it was a very sort of quick thing. Unfortunately, obviously, there's not a lot of us professional boxers down in Somerset, and it's quite hard to sort of put a show on in Somerset, really, and it can cost quite a lot of money because there isn't the fighters to sort of put it on, like, you know. So yeah, it was sort of the place where I had to be in the end was up in the York Hall.
Are you telling us, Paul, that you're the David Beckham of Somerset?
Not at all, mate. David Beckham, I'm 5'5", is a scrawny little.
The Jermaine Defoe of Somerset.
yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just Paul Roberts of Somerset. That's all I am.
Paul Roberts of Somerset. So then, look, Paul, I want to speak about Spain. So you decided, or Max decided, to take you up to Spain. What was the thoughts behind that?
Do you know, it was just a bit of sort of an out of the blue thing, really. Max was sort of Max had been there before. I actually went to the MTK gym in Marbella probably 4 to 5 years ago, and then that gym sort of stopped, and then there's a new sort of MTK / the rival boxing gym is called out there. And Max had been there prior, and he just sort of said, you know, can you get sort of 5 days off work just to go out there to do a bit of training? And I managed to get some time off work. Obviously cost me some money, but I was willing to do that to get a bit of extra training in. We was hoping for a bit of sparring and stuff, which, you know, Max organised, but unfortunately, you know, the chaps got injured a few days prior to us going out, but it was going to cost too much money then to start cancelling flights and all that sort of stuff. So we just thought we'd go out there, use it as a training thing, lose a bit of weight and stuff. And yeah, it was just, not only that, it was just a good time to be around. Obviously, you've seen the people that was out there, you know, watching and sort of learning bits from them, seeing sort of how they go about things and stuff, which, if I'm honest, isn't too dissimilar with, obviously they're full-time boxers, but when I'm down the gym, it's sort of, you know, the similarities wise, it's all sort of there. I obviously don't know what they do whilst they're outside the gym. I'm laying blocks, like, you know, but they're pretty chilled, I'm sure. But yeah, it's yeah,
worth doing.
Yeah, it was just about that. Yeah, it was worth doing. And, you know, for your mental state as well, knowing that you're going out there, you're around those sorts of chaps. Even though I didn't spar or nothing, I got some really good training in, some good pads with Max. You know, I just felt really good whilst I was out there, and mentally it sort of prepared me to fight Jack, really, I suppose.
Like I say, I mean, when you was at the Wayne, you did look good. So when we talk about weight, Jack, how was the weight for you this camp?
Yeah, like, I mean, well, I've been a pro for 6 years now, and like 9 out of 10 of my fights have been down at 52 kilo. I've never missed weight ever as a professional, whether it be on the day or the day before. I've always made Superfly pretty comfortably. Kieran wants me to move down to fly or even even light fly. So yeah, you know, made weight just like I always do, really.
And what about you, Paul? Because you seem more, you're quite ripped, aren't you? So what's weight like with you? Are you comfortable?
Yeah, I find it sort of too easy. If I'm honest, I wish like all my knowledge about weight is all just to do with calorie intake and stuff like that. I sort of don't go down the dehydration sort of route. I'm drinking 2 liters of water up until the day before the weigh-in. Like, I'm still, apart
Exactly
from
the
on
same.
the day of the weigh-in, it's just sort of like I'm at that like, 2 liters sort of minimum, like, and that's like, so it's just all about like a calorie deficit, getting in, I'm always eating about 2,500 calories, but I'm burning with work and training sort of 3,500, and over the 8 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it is you do, you end up making weight, and that's that. Like, it's as easy as that. And luckily enough, I get a little 6-pack to come along with it as well, so it's all right. But I don't really put on a lot of weight in between either. I sort of only go up to about sort of 57 kilos really. So I think I could go down to fly or light fly pretty easily as well. It's just, yeah. Unfortunately, like in my sort of earlier parts of the career, I've never been able to fight people. Like I've never been able to get fights at super fly or flyweight. So I think even my debut was at like feather or super feather, and I was just like, I almost had to put on weight to fight him. Like it was like 122 or 120, but everyone I've fought, I've always been lighter than. I've never had, like weight on my side. I suppose I've always been just the little dweeby one fighting the bigger chap. Like
You are smaller than Jack height-wise as well, aren't you? You're a bit shorter.
yeah, about an inch or two, I think there is in it, something like that, isn't there? Possibly, but yeah.
See, on just talking about weight, Paul, I was speaking to your coach Max not long after the fight. I just wanted to, because he said he wasn't too sure, but I just wanted to ask you. See, on the day, what did you weigh on the day of the fight?
On the day, on the scales, because it was weird. So on the day of my fight.
Yeah, so when we fought,
the
like
day
on
of
the
the
actual
fight.
day. Yeah.
Oh, 53.3 I was in
So you didn't.
in the morning. I didn't.
I was 57 on the day. So yeah,
Really?
yeah.
I just don't know how. I'm not even 57 kilos now. I've had a week of eating absolute like a tub of ice cream a day, and I'm still not even 57 kilos now. I'm like 55.8, I think I was this morning. But yeah.
With the weight Jack's at, he's on standby for Canelo GGG with a weight.
I'm 64 kilo right now, mate.
Are you? Oh, mate. I don't know how. I don't know how. So like, what? So straight after our weigh-in, I went to obviously it was at Leighton Buzzard. I went and had like a nice big meal at this like Turkish restaurant. It was proper nice, I must admit. I would shout out the restaurant, but I can't remember what it was called. But it was good. It was hell of a nice. So I had like a big meal, drunk probably about 1.5 to 2 liters of water. So that was what was our weigh-in? 1:30. So that was at about 2:30. Later on that night, I was staying in Watford, and then had a nice big fat Nando's as well. And yeah, next day I had a big breakfast. I was still only sort of like 53. I was 53.3, but that was before breakfast.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I just it's weird.
So you just don't put on then?
I've got quite a. I was on the toilet a lot, like I think I've got quite a fast metabolism. But yeah, I suppose because you're not used to eating that sort of stuff. I suppose when you're during training camp, but I say that it was all pretty decent food what I was having,
Yeah.
and during the camp I have Nando's and stuff. But yeah, it just I don't
Yeah.
really put on weight very fast, I suppose.
Yeah,
Just a little lad.
So then let's talk about the fight. So I want to jump to that sort of halfway through. Jack, at the halfway point, how are you feeling in the fight?
Yeah, I felt good. It's funny because I think if you relate back to what Paul said earlier, when you see things from different angles, obviously being in the ring at the time, I felt really comfortable. Like when going into the seventh, I felt I was quite ahead at that point. But then when I watched it back on YouTube from a different angle, it seemed a lot closer than what I had thought it was in the ring. But then again, this is just what Paul was saying, like different angles and actually being involved in the fight. When you're in the ring, you can see, like, what punches are landing, what punches are missing. But sometimes from a certain angle, a punch on the gloves looks like it landed. A punch that slipped may look like it's just connected, and like
Yeah.
it's hard to tell. But on the night, I felt comfortable. I was like, oh yeah, like I feel like I'm making him miss. I feel like I'm beating him to the jab and so on and so forth. But as I said, as I watched it back, I was like, oh, this is a bit closer than I thought it was like initially. But I felt the early rounds I took, and then coming on to the seventh, I felt Paul won. Like had real good like momentum. Like I think he took the seventh, eighth, and ninth.
Yeah, 7, 8, and 9 was
Yeah,
definitely a good period of mine. Yeah.
and then I felt there was either one round in it, which is, Kieran, when I got up, Kieran said, I need you to give me the biggest round of your life. And then, yeah, I think, I don't think many people could argue that I lost the 10th. I think I won the 10th quite comfortably. And I think initially that's what won me the fight. And if you look on the ref scorecard, it was like, what was it, 96, 94. So there was about a round or two in it. So, yeah, I think I definitely, like, as I said, the first one, I think you could argue a case either way. But I felt like even though the second was also close, I did think it was, I did think I deserved it.
And then what about you, Paul? Because I think I expected you to come out flying. I expect you to have this like a Pikachu of an electric thing up your ass. You think it's fair to say you started the fight quite slow?
Yeah, definitely. And if I'm honest, that was a completely different Jack Hughes in there that night. Like, and all credit to Jack and his team. It was completely different. And I was sort of expecting that from Jack, really, to think that, all right, he might have thought, I've got a bit fitter for this, through this camp or something. This time I'm going to go out there and throw those extra punches, what maybe I should have thrown on even though the first fight was hell for leather all the time. I was sort of expecting Jack to really put on to go out there and just proper come for me again, and which I think you could see from round 7, 8, and 9 when Jack was a bit sort of slower on his feet. We're both getting tired and stuff, but it just means that Jack wasn't stepping out as quick as what he was in the rounds sort of 1, 2, and 3. That's when I sort of come into my own, because I'm pretty good at staying just in, but just out of range. And that's when I was sort of getting my best work out, because I could then catch Jack where he wasn't getting out quick enough, But on the first sort of the slow start was probably because Jack was completely different in where he was out of range all the time, and I had to go forward towards Jack, and I wasn't expecting to have to do that. If you know what I mean, I just could not get my range properly because Jack was behind his jab, stepping out every time, in which I was then struggling to find my range against him.
Do you not think that a part of that is down to, obviously in the first fight there was a cut early? So did you not kind of, I suppose, where you'd only spent one round with him before that? I'd always said that if there's no cuts, Jack's jab, like Jack didn't even realise this himself. Jack's jab has always, whenever I've been in the gym with him, I've always seen it on the pad, jab, right hand, left hand, whatever it is. And I always thought that if Jack could stay out the way of the cuts, you've got very quick hands, Paul. I give you that respect now. And that right hand does come across like a fucking lever. And it must have been so frustrating for you, obviously, where you'd seen Jack in the first fight. How frustrating was it every time you went to move in, that jab was just there on the end of the nose? Was you getting annoyed in the corners?
It was more, I was annoyed at myself that I wasn't, I'm pretty good at bobbing and weaving, but for some reason, again down to the night, I couldn't quite work out the range of where his jab was to be able to sort of step in, bob and weave to get my own shots off. Like, I was just always out of range too far. But with Jack, because Jack was, stepping in and stepping out quick, I was struggling to get my range, in which then, Jack did have a good jab, especially those first sort of 3 to 4 rounds. Even though what I would say is, like, like watching it back, round 1 and 2 was, again, it's sort of like ref's discretion on what he likes. Jack was popping away really good jabs, but then every now and again I was catching Jack with a real good, clean, maybe one like sort of a hard shot or two. It's down to what you prefer at the end of the day, isn't it? So those rounds could have been either of ours, and then but 3, 4, and 5, Jack was definitely catching those cleaner jabs all the time. Then, but and I was just struggling to make my way in.
So then we go to I believe it was the 7th round, Jack, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you were cut. Deja vu. Obviously, we've spoke about it, but obviously Paul might not have seen it. So what's going through your mind when you're cut?
Literally, mate, just that. I was just thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, not again, man. Like, it was like right above my eyebrow, like dripping into my eye. It was worse than the first one. Like, there was just instantly, as soon as it happened, it was just pissing, and it was in my eye, it was in my mouth. I could taste my own bloods, and I was just like, oh, mate, like, come on, not again. Like, because I felt everything was going well, and then obviously that happened, and I was just like, oh man, here we go again.
And then same for you, Paul. Obviously, you've come in, you've seen the cut. How does that change your mindset? Or do you think, fuck me, I couldn't do it before when he was cut, let's go again?
I was just going right hand over the top, right hand over the top, right hand over the top. That's all was going through my mind was hit the cut, hit the cut, hit the cut. I don't have a nice guy, but it's boxing. That was obviously in the corner. It was like, try and lead with the right hand. If he's going to be ducking away he's going to be keeping his hand up, but then going to be ducking away. So throw the lefts up, and for parts it was working on 7, 8, and 9, which probably won me those 3 rounds. I feel like I can pretty much definitely say those 3 rounds through those sorts of shots were winning me winning me those rounds, really. So yeah.
Before we go on to the next part, there's a time, Jack, where you hit Paul clean, and you said that in the fight you didn't realise that it had maybe wobbled him a bit. But talk us through that shot. Obviously, you were struggling to see through one eye. How did that come about?
Well, at that moment, I was struggling to see through both eyes because Paul blinded me in the 8th with a right uppercut, and that was a weird experience as well, which I've already spoke about. But yeah, no, like, credit to Paul, like, he's obviously got a great chin, and he's got a great like poker face, and as I said again, this is all from angles. On the night when I hit him with the shots, he just kept coming forward, and there was no like distress in his face to tell me that he was hurt. Maybe he wasn't hurt, but I mean, when I hit him and watched it from the top angle, like, you could see his legs go, but that could just be a bit of like.
What round was this?
The 10th round.
The 10th, yeah.
Yeah.
I watched it back as well, and to be fair, like, you look at my legs, and you could easily sort of think, like, whilst I'm in there, I'm thinking, I thought I was fine. I didn't feel hurt or nothing. But then I look at my legs, I'm thinking, was I pissed? What the hell is going on? But if like that 10th round was like so hard for me. Like in round 9, like your head, Jack, is like a mule. I swear, because my hands after round 9, I was like, they've got to be broke. Something's happened here. My hands were just in a right pickle, and so in like round 10, my legs were wanting me to go forward all the time, and my brain was like, I've got to go forward, throwing punches. This is the last round. I've got to do this. But my hands and my brain, because my hands are in so much pain, obviously my brain was saying, you ain't throwing a punch, you're going to hurt your hand, you stupid idiot. Why are you going to do that? So I'm going forward with my legs all the time, which is probably why I look like I'm pissed. So I'm just going forward with my legs and just walking into shots all the time, but I'm not throwing nothing back because my hands are so sore. So it's just, it was a nightmare. But
I've seen a picture. What happened to your hands?
So well, they're fine now. They come up that initially, so the doctors and that said they're broken like after the fight, because they was up straight away. They was both swollen, and the lady was like, yeah, they're broken, but you've got to get ice on it tonight and then go and have an x-ray tomorrow. But then the next day I thought, well, I can move them, I'll be all right. So I travelled back to Somerset. They was like bruised and whatnot. But yeah, I went back and I just sort of kept sort of thinking, well, I'm moving them. They look in a bad way, and obviously to touch they were sore. But yeah, it was obviously just through like pure impact of Jack's solid head that they just got. Just through, I suppose, you get punch, you get bruised. It's the same as, I'm guessing it just really just bruised them through impact quite badly, I suppose. But no, they're not broken because they're all good.
I see it on Max's page and I was like, holy fuck, like Jesus Christ. But
yeah, I don't know, it was in a bad way.
But I can't comment on that. But let's talk about what Jack was just saying about. So in the 8th round, you've hit him with an uppercut. And again, I was all over. I didn't see it. I've seen it on the replay now. And how you took that shot, Jack, I don't know. But Paul, when you threw that shot, you must have thought, this is it.
If I'm honest, sorry, I'm just whacking my phone on charge. But yeah, if I'm honest with you, I actually, again, like Jack sort of said about the whole poker face thing, because I knew I was catching Jack with shots, and I'm sure Jack knew he was catching me with shots. But I think we're both pretty hard guys, if you know what I mean. Like it's sort of, I think we just both. I've sort of caught people. To be fair, I've never really done it in an actual fight, but I've caught people in sparring, and you've seen them sort of go a bit jellified, and they've had to stop and stuff. But in a fight, Jack's obviously a hard person, and he just in poker face again. Well, again, like you said, it might not have hurt him. It's just you're catching him, and he's still coming forwards or still doing his boxing. So that was that. One thing I suppose I would say is, so obviously in the first fight, Jack was sort of not as hesitant with coming forwards as what he was. Jack obviously boxed a lot more in the second, but if that was the first fight where I caught him and then he would have stepped back, and knowing that he was usually coming forwards, I probably would have thought, oh, maybe I have hurt him here. But the fact that Jack was actually boxing sort of off of the back foot, if I had caught him and hurt him and he had stepped back, because he was fighting off the back foot anyway, it was sort of, I almost wouldn't have known, if you know what I mean, if he'd stepped back and just sort of gone around, because that's what Jack was that was Jack's plan anyway. So. Yeah,
I will say the game plan was kept under. I must have been down to Jack's gym 10 times during camp, Jack.
Yeah,
and I never had expected Jack to box on the back foot, and Kieran and Jack's training, and Kieran's and Jack's training sessions aren't exactly like enclosed. You stand at the ring and watch them spar, and I'd never seen it. So like when I see it after like 4 or 5 rounds, I was saying to Jack's wife to be, I was like, this is mental. Like Jack's jab is. You might hear me, I'll be going, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But listen, that's enough about the fight. We want to talk about respect between you both and obviously moving forward. So, Jack, Paul Roberts, best man you've shared a ring with?
Oh, yeah, 110%. Like, as I said before, and in the last one, like, Ricky was good, and it was a hard fight, but there were just so many things that made this one so much harder. You know, like again, like styles make fights, and I just found Paul, like as I said before, I found him very awkward. His ring craft is very good, and so on and so forth. Where I felt like Ricky was more of just a kind of like an aggressive fighter. He didn't really have much like ring IQ and so on and so forth. And then I had the cuts to deal with, which made the fight difficult. I was then obviously blinded in my other eye, which was from a punch from Paul, which was made the fight even more difficult. And like, yeah, it was just, you know, like no matter whatever happens down the line, there's always going to be such mad respect for me for Paul because of like the 20 rounds we shared together.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And Paul, same question to you, mate. Jack, the best you've been in with?
Yeah, of course. Like in terms of, I suppose I was fortunate enough to share the ring with some serious sort of quality in the amateurs, but especially in the professional game, like definitely is, you know, the hardest fights I've had. Like, you know, especially, you know, 10. Like I don't think people realise 10 rounds of solid punching, like how much hard work that is. Like people, until they've gone and done it, they don't realise how hard it is, and getting punched at the same time as well. No matter what weight you are, whether you're super fly, whether you're, you know, 100 kilos or whatever, it's still always hard work. Like, you know.
Yeah. And this is something I said about the other night. You know, Jack, thanks to you, Paul, had to get new shorts for this second fight. He's going to have to get new shorts again. But on the back of his shorts this time, I don't know if you see it, he had Showstopper. And I think we mentioned it on the podcast the other week. You know, the first fight deserved to steal the show because you was headlining. But that second fight, obviously last week, you had some fantastic fights. You know, you had Dennis versus ID Hill for the lightweight. You had Jamie Smith against Mendes for the cruiserweight. You had an absolute war between a journeyman and a prospect earlier on. But again, and it's been labelled everywhere, whether it's on Southpaw Jab, Boxing News, you two have stole the show. You know, what did you know when you'd come out of there, Jack, you must have just thought, thank fucking Christ. And Paul, you must have thought, what more can I do? Jack?
Yeah, mate. Like, you know, I've had 3 Southern area title fights now. As you said, the first one with me and Paul, it was the main event, so it was meant to steal the show. But the other 2, the one with me and Ricky Little, there were people like Linus on there, Dion Juma on there, and then this one we had people like Jamie Smith, Dennis and ID, and so on. So like, it wasn't even, especially the first one with Ricky Little, because you know, being the flyweights, no one even, you know, even looks at the flyweights on cards 9 out of 10 times, you know. But and then obviously the one with me and Paul, again, it probably wasn't looked at. The Jamie Smith one was probably looked at the one that was going to steal the show. And again, I've gone out 3 times, stolen the show twice with Paul. And I just feel like it's such a shame that these fights weren't televised, because it would have done such good things, not only just for boxing, but for our division as well. Because as I said, our division just gets looked down upon because we're not big knockout artists.
Has he gone?
Huh?
Can you hear me, Paul?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I'm listening in.
Where's Jack then? There he is.
Yeah. You could hear me, Paul, couldn't you?
Yeah.
No, I don't know what happened there, Carl, but yeah. I just lost my train of thought then. But yeah, like flyweight saying like looked at as people that are meant to steal the show because we're not big guys and we're not knockout artists. But a lot of flyweight fights, if you look at them, it's like hell for leather. It's like fast-paced action for like 10, 12 rounds. And I feel like if it would have done wonders for our division, man, like seeing mine and Ricky's fight and both of mine and Paul's fight. But, you know, unfortunately, it is what it is. Small hall shows don't get, you know, recognition that I feel that they deserve. And, you know, even if you look now, out of all the fights that Steve Goodwin's put up, mine and Paul has like 200 views more than every single fight that was put up there. So it just goes to show like how good the fight was and like, you know, the credit that me and Paul both deserve for putting on, you know, a fight of a year contender. I mean, especially definitely a small hall fight of the year contender, not only once, but twice, you know.
Mate, that second fight was honest. I'm not just saying it because you're both here. You know, I've said it in other podcasts, some with Tom tomorrow night, and I'll say the same. that would not look out of place on a pay-per-view undercard. And I genuinely mean that. Do you know what I mean? You could have that in Saudi Arabia and people would talk about that fight because you could just see two guys going at it, and you're not doing it for money because there wasn't much money in it. You are genuinely doing it to win that area title belt. Do you know what I mean? So listen, from myself and everyone that was at York Hall and everyone who's watched that fight, I just want to bang down on the respect for both of you.
Thanks,
because
thank you.
You won't see it. Do you know what I mean? You won't see it. And again, Paul, big respect to you, mate, because again, nobody expected it. That's just the truth of it, you know. And a lot more people went into that second fight 50-50 than they did in that first fight. And I can tell you that because I was confident Jack would win, but I was nowhere near as confident as I was in the first fight. And that is all down to your ability and what you showed in that first fight, you know. So look, let's talk about moving forward. So obviously, Jack, what's your plans now? I know you've got a date announced.
Yeah, well, I've got a date announced on November the 12th, which ironically is the day I made my debut 6 years ago. So that's quite a nice little nostalgic thing for me. No opponent or anything yet. To be honest, I think it's just going to be more of a tick-over fight to get into next year for bigger things. But
you sure I shouldn't get ready for it?
Fuck off.
Maybe. But yeah, I do have like an announcement that I do have an announcement that I'm going to be making in a couple of weeks, which obviously, I mean, well, hopefully this week, but can't talk about it yet. But moving forward, we've got, as far as titles go, I said this way before that I literally have no interest in defending the Southern area for multiple reasons, which I've spoken about countless times, and kind of the same goes for the English. But I mean, if the English come about, I probably would take it, but I'm looking to really move on to like something like a Commonwealth or a British, finally, you know, make a bit of money for myself because I feel like I deserve it. You know, I've grafted for 6 years to finally get in a good position in like the rankings in Britain, you know, so I feel like I'm the Southern Area champion. You know, I'm the second ever Southern Area champion in history in our weight class. So I feel like that deserves a big fight now, you know. Like I've grafted for years. I've had 3 show-stealing fights, so I feel like I deserve something big in the future.
And then, Paul, if that becomes vacant in the near future, do you feel like you warrant another shot at that vacant title?
Well, yeah, of course. I'm just pretty much gonna get ready, and well, I've got a holiday coming up in Tenerife in a few weeks' time. But after that, I'm just gonna get ready and stay ready, and hopefully, sort of a call comes my way, and I know I've got to just keep improving all the time and cause an upset somewhere, like, you know, because as I said, like, not a lot of boxing comes down to Somerset, so I'm gonna have to travel my way up there, I think, you know, and cause an upset. And again, like Jack said, there's not really, and like you said yourself, there's not really loads of money in it, but you just got to try and get your way to, you know, a position to you know, at the end of the day, we've all got ambitions as boxers. I've always had it since a young lad, and obviously that's a step back now, you know, losing the Jack there, but I'm committed and enough and stuff that, you know, I'll get there someday. So yeah, just got to keep working my way to it.
Mate, I really hope that, you know, Mo Pride backs you and says, you know, we've took this boy down to York Hall twice. He's had 2 absolute fucking barnstormers. And I do hope that they get you a shot and a show, you know, on your, not even in Somerset, but somewhere where you're the home fighter and you've got that bit of an advantage, you know, where you know that you haven't got to go there and probably knock the guy out. And mate, honestly, you know, like I said at the start, you know, I tried hating you for so long, but I've got nothing but respect for you. And I
appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it.
As I said to both of you, mate, fucking absolutely fantastic. 2 fucking barnstormers. So listen, I wish Paul, I wish you the very best, and Jack, you can fuck off. That is literally my question, Jack. I don't know if you've got anything more for Paul or anything like that.
No, I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Yeah, go on. You can end it off then with your usual.
Oh, mate, you've started the show. You've taken the show. You end the show as well.
Well, listen, look, that's it from us. Paul, again, thank you for joining us, mate. Full respect for coming on talking about the fight. And yeah, we'll be back. When are we going out? Saturday for this? So we'll be back next week for another episode of Let the Punk Talk.
Lovely.
Yeah, good luck again, Jack. All right, on the 12th.
Thank you,
and
Paul.
hopefully I'll be out soon. And yeah, everyone come on and watch us flyweights, super flyweights, and watch some good fights in the future. Isn't it? That's what it's all about.
All the best, man.
See you later on, lads.